Hey, we playing?
Here we go. All right, Johnny, you're back.
Yeah.
You're back in Vallejo. Tell me the story.
Well, I was going up the coast and I had my kayak on top up the Pacific Highway. And before I got to Oregon, got through Eureka and it was so cloudy and I didn't want to go into the rain. I'd been in the high desert for almost a month. And so I decided to head east toward Shasta Lake. And I camped out and I got up on Sunday morning, and about lunchtime I came by this place for kayak rentals and Whitewater and fishing guide, and I got a shuttle for my kayak, and it was class 2 rapids, and I'm like, yeah, I can handle this. I've been on class 2 rapids on the Chama River.
Where was this?
On the Chama River. I was on Highway 299 on the Trinity River, headed east toward Shasta and Redding, and up in the mountains, and you could see the Trinity. It was one of the forks. I don't know which one. I think it's the South Fork. And so I hired someone to shuttle me, and I thought I was ready to go, and I decided to put on a pair of shorts, and I paid the lady, stuck my billfold in my back pocket, and then I headed to I decided, well, I'll shove off and find a sandbar and get all my gear in order to go on down the stream. It was a 3-hour float. That was a big mistake, not being ready with a dry bag. I had my phone in the front pocket of my shorts and my billfold in the back pocket, and just pulled out from the put-in place and come around a little bend, and I could hear the rapids up front. They were loud, the roar, and it's like I was going in, and wow, it's like no turning back now. Here we go. And I came into the Whitewater, and the water had come up in a little trough and come up, seemed like 3 feet high. And the first one I went in, the water came over the front of my kayak. It dipped below the surface and came in my lap, and it was a series of those, and by the third one, it happened so fast. By the third one, I was completely swamped. The flotation foam piece in the front floated out of the front of my kayak. My thermos had floated out, my hat was off my head, and I got out of the kayak. The front end of the kayak was down, and my hatch was in the back. I think it was the only thing keeping the kayak floating. And I was completely over my head. And I was holding onto the kayak and my paddle, and I got my thermos, and I got a hold of my hat, and the flotation piece floated on down, and I was in some pretty big rocks, and I was looking around for a place to try to pull my kayak to the bank, and I'm like, oh shit, my iPhone's in my front pocket. And so I was in a little bit of a backwash eddy, and I got to the bank, and it was just rocks coming straight up out of the water, and there was a little place where you could just stand up a little bit, and it was between ankle and knee deep, and I got the kayak up in there. And a 13.5-foot kayak full of water is heavy, but I got it up and on the side, and I jostled it a little bit, and I finally got it turned over and all the water out of it. And really, fortunately, hadn't lost anything much except my billfold was gone. And it's like, damn, here we go. This is just the first of it. And so I got the water emptied out, got back in the kayak, and going downstream, I could see my flotation piece that was in the nose of my kayak was in an eddy, and I picked it up, and I got to looking for a place to pull out. The river was high. I remember the lady told me that the river's high. So anyway, unlike the Chama, the water was down a little bit, and I bounced off a lot of rocks. This water was going over the rocks, and throwing up waves, throwing these whitewater waves up, and going through them. About 3 of them inside the kayak, you go down. So I got on the opposite side of the river, and I found a place where just enough room to kind of get out and pull up. And I made damn sure I tied my kayak off. I damn sure didn't want to lose it. Seemed like I shook about a quart of water out of my iPhone. Laid it up on a rock. It was hot. It was probably 100 degrees. And dried off a little bit. And would shake water off and left it in the sun. And finally got it to where I couldn't shake any more water out of it. And I put it in a plastic bag and put it in the back. Like I ought to did before this episode. So this is just the beginning of the trip. I had a 3-hour float, and that was the first set of rapids, and most of the trip was rapids. There was, where the water was kind of flat, it was still moving fast. And I got back in, and I had to, going in, just judging where to go. I learned kayaking, I learned by doing, and I was still learning. And I had to stop and empty water out a few times. And one more time I went down. It was hot. I had my shorts on. It'd been so cold in California, I hadn't had my shorts on much, and I was gonna get sunburned if I didn't cover my legs. So I had a beach towel with me. I pulled out of the hatch, put over my legs, and that worked pretty well up till I came into another monster set of rapids that I went down again. The kayak went down just like a bobber with a big fish pulled it under. And the way I handled it before is I just came out of the kayak and held on to it with one hand and a paddle on the other hand. And my thermos was empty this time. It was full the first time. It was empty this time, so my thermos floated away. And this time it was harder to turn the kayak over and get it situated. I was up in some rocks. I banged my knee up against a rock, scraped it pretty good, but it wasn't too bad. And so lost my beach towel. I realized that. And when I got back in, I made the float. The float was fun. It taught me a lot of respect for Whitewater, especially out west. And it was Sunday, and so long story short, I camped out a couple of days, and I decided, well, maybe it wasn't meant to be to go to Oregon. I came back to Vallejo. Carolyn and Andreas were on a photography assignment, and I knew they were due to be back about Wednesday. And so I'd camped out a couple of nights, came back Thursday night, and got to surveying my options of where to go. And I thought, well, I could leave my truck here. They offered to let me do that and fly out. Thinking about Ecuador, Central America, Mexico City. Got to looking at prices with Andreas, and come to find out, round trip to Ecuador, $500 or $600. Round trip to India, $800. Why not? Hell, I'm going to India. So I got a piece of paper that's good as driver's license already back, printed out, and I got not a credit card, my debit card on the way. I have access to my money. I've got a passport, and so I'm making arrangements to fly out and go to India for a month or so, and then come back to the good old USA. So nice. I kind of had myself in a box. So
you're gonna come back.
Getting out of the big box. I'm going to going to the Orient.
Nice.
1.8 billion people. So anyway, I thought since I was posting every day, I'd kind of give y'all an explanation of what was up. I've enjoyed this past week, so it wasn't all bad. It was just part of the adventure, and I really didn't lose much. It just a little bit of red tape and hassle getting it back. So that's it.